This is a treat for us because he is one of our favorite guests that we've had on over the years on this show, and he is as good as it gets. I know he's a very humble guy, but Frank B., professional sports bettor, joins us in studio to talk about the Super Bowl and betting on it. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Bright and early.
Yeah, it is. But you're up like this. This is your life.
Yeah, I'm mostly on Central time, so this is not that big a deal to get up.
Yeah, okay. So I was asking you before the break, how many Super Bowls have you been betting on? When you go back and you really do the math on that, and you had a good answer because you've had a chance to go to probably several, and you're like, nah, I need to bet this thing.
Oh, go to the Super Bowl. Yeah. I've had, you win tickets in the casino. So I've had a couple opportunities. The San Diego game was one where my buddies all went, and I decided to stay, and because I wanted to close out all my stuff and bet the props. So yeah, I've passed on a couple. I actually prefer to watch it at home. I know it's an experience, and maybe one day on every sports fan's bucket list, that's what they want to do. So maybe one day. But, to stay and bet was more important on that week.
Maybe next year when the game's here in Las Vegas.
Maybe. Yeah.
You could go,
But you've won that? You've won a house? What are some of the great things you've won before?
Oh, well, listen, it's been 30 years, since I came to town. So there's a lot of things, back in the day when there were a lot of promotions were giving away a whole lot more. I mean, I won cars in the past, things like that. But, mostly handicapping contests,
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So I teased this before the break. As somebody who has been betting the Super Bowl for a long time, and you're a pro at this, like every pro who I've ever listened to or talked to, they basically look at unders when it comes to props in the Super Bowl. Explain why.
Well, especially in the Super Bowl where the bulk of the bets are player props, you just have, and the public, they love to bet the overs. They think in a DFS type way where they are looking for something to happen, somebody to do well, and they're going to push things up like it's still coming. They haven't really hit town yet, and they're going to push the numbers up this weekend. So they want to bet the over, and it just creates value for unders. Secondly, is when you bet player props, everything that can go wrong with your bet favors the under. If you bet over, guy could get hurt, the game could get got out of hand, and you have a running back, and he no longer is going to be carrying the ball. Everything that can go wrong with a bet, it applies to people that bet over.
Yeah, you basically need, if you're going to be betting all overs on these props, you essentially need a Patriots-Eagles Super Bowl, and that doesn't happen every single year.
Yeah, the Philly special was my worst Super Bowl ever by far. They had 1,000 net yards, and I guess that was a record for any game ever in the NFL. So there's no way I'm winning on that year. Biggest offensive game in the history of the NFL. That was a loser, but it was followed by the best Super Bowl I've ever had. It was, 13-3 Patriots?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was that was a killer, and on top of it, everything that happened the previous year influenced people to bet more overs the next year.
Good point.
It's the recency bias thing was pretty strong.
Okay, so what you're saying is a lot of the bets have been made already, but if you hold out and wait for the public to really get involved this week, when the avalanche money comes from the public side, you can still find some stuff later on, you think?
Sure. I mean, most of the guys that start betting early, Monday, Tuesday, it used to be you start betting Thursday when Westgate opened. Now it's not like that anymore. If you want to bet the very first numbers that come out, you got to travel, go somewhere else and get things. So everybody really did bet overs to start because, if you want to have any position on any overs, you need to get it in early before the public gets. They're going to push them up more. Then you can deal with your position and say, oh, okay, this one I like, I want to keep. This one, yeah, okay, I'll buy some of it back, all of it back. And so that's pretty much the chronology. So I'm about halfway done right now. A lot of people think that you're more early, but no, a lot of betting is going to happen this weekend.
Okay, let's tie everything together here. So we'll get to his bet that he made coming up. But if you have a great position with a limit bet, how much do you come back? And then if you have a juicy middle, I mean, you have a great point, but you don't want to hedge away your advantage. But
right.
What do you do? How do you attack it from that standpoint if you have a nice middle?
Well, yeah, it depends. Like your opinion. Like you've made your lines already for everything, and if it goes way too far, and you say, well, I'm just going to buy it all back, that's fine. But if you want to stay heavy on whichever position you think has the biggest advantage. And I just have a question here. I was in Ohio and then Colorado, and betting there. Then I come here.
Uh-huh.
The experience betting is so different. At what point, what is holding up getting desktop betting here? You know what I'm saying? Betting, where you can bet on the desktop and you can think, instead of doing this with the phone.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, what's holding that up in Nevada? I mean, every other state can do it. Why can't they do it here?
I think that the common response that we've gotten, I think, basically is technology, but I think that's more so on the app. I know. I know.
Better technology in Ohio?
No, I don't buy it. I mean, I really don't. So I don't know. It's a great question. I'm with you too. Like the phone drives me nuts all day long.
Yeah. Well, listen, some of these apps, you go on there and you have to hit everyone to open it up to look and see what it is. It's not a good user experience compared to what's going on really pretty much everywhere else.
Well, that's a whole other discussion about how bad it is here.
Yeah, with the menu too.
The menu's
the hours.
Yeah.
I mean, Circa's got their act together.
Sure.
I mean, if you've ever been out of the state and bet at Circa or Westgate, it's a wonderful experience betting on the desktop. Everything, you line everything up, and the sites work perfectly. And why they can't get it done here, I have no idea.
Those two books, you can do that on the desktop outside of Nevada, but not
wonderful. Here. Yeah. I mean, the Westgate's got a great site in Ohio. I was betting there, and it's just like betting at some of the ones offshore.
Where would you rank Nevada as a state to gamble in compared to the other ones that you've been in?
Well, some of them have problems, like Montana, and
of course.
But of the ones that are doing it big, I mean, for the user experience, just because of that, it's not near the top. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So how about, like, for example, the Goddard? If you didn't Goddard will be a big focus of this game.
Yeah, people bet Goddard over early. Yeah, people. A lot of the guys you bet these guys early if you think the public's going to be on, like Kelsey, like Goddard. The Miles Sanders gained some steam.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are now a few yards more and more juice, and we're going to have some good buyback opportunities come the weekend.
And so is that a big enough buyback, though, spot for you? Let's use Goddard as the example. And it's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest is professional sports bettor Frank B. You were betting Goddard right away at 4.5 over, I think, minus 114. With the
I got some of that, but primarily I got 43.5 over 15.
Okay.
And then 40. I took some 45.5. So I don't know what it sits now, 48.5, 49.
I saw a size 49.5. I think I saw a 50.5 out there as well.
Yeah,
that's
this is
a big enough percentage for you?
Typical trajectory for a premium skill offensive player in a Super Bowl. That's what happens. Mm-hmm. So.
And if the receptions if it moves to 5.5, is that
well, 5.5 I've seen already, but it's got a little too much juice on it, but maybe it's heading there. Yeah, sure. If you go over 4.5, under 5.5, and you're just laying flat juice, that's a good play because that 5's a big number for those guys.
Do you see the most errors or mistakes in cross sport props, and all you do is doing this?
Yeah, there's the most volatility in those because you're one segment, one half of the bet is something that they're not used to making lines on. Now, these places pretty much use templates. They're going to make the same general type of bet for the one half. Like we were talking before we got on the bean pot thing. That's a pretty obscure thing. Half the people that probably don't know what bean pot is.
Right. You mentioned it the last time you were on in studio. Yeah. You were betting that.
Yeah. So that's they pair it up with things like that. And if you have somebody that's maybe the market has already bet really strong and the numbers more than you want to pay, maybe you'll find something in the cross sports where they're using that player where you can kind of dial back the number that they're using for example, Goddard or something like that.
Okay. So, because I also want to get a history of this too. Yeah. The history of betting on cross-sport props. Because, like you said, it's not the same as it was years ago, right? Like, the standard here would be the Westgate would open everything up like at 7 o'clock your local time on Thursday night, and all the props would be on the board. And that was a who's who is going to be there. That's changed because of sports betting now across the country, and props are on the board on Monday morning, the week after we know the two teams. But they were always like the gold standard with the cross-sport props.
Right.
And offshore books would do it as well. And then a lot of other books would just basically copy and paste. And then if you found an error or a number that was way off, you could just bet it at all these books and then try to take advantage of it that way.
Yeah, well, let's say 10 years ago, 10 years ago, Westgate was the only one that was doing it.
Sure.
Take anything. And I would see guys, after the opening night, I would see sportsbook guys in the sportsbook, like writing stuff down. After everything's closed, they're up there,
Yeah.
and then they'd go back, and then lo and behold, a day or two later, they'd show up on their sheet in the exact same order with the exact same wording and everything. And you would also see this offshore. Now, Westgate, most guys wouldn't do the copy thing. They would go and get the sheet the next day, because back then they didn't give you a sheet on opening night, maybe for that reason. So when you pick up the sheet, whatever's on there is what they were going to put up on their board. And if there was an error on there, they wouldn't know it. And it happened numerous times. They would put up an error, and you go, look, they don't I mean, Westgate realized it. It wouldn't be like that in the computer.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the people that just copied and have no idea what's
no
going on,
clue.
now it's up there. Now it's like, okay, now it's open season. We can go to town on them because they have no idea why we're betting this, because they don't know what the line should be.
Sure.
And, sometimes it would create a problem when it came time to cash, because between you betting it and the resolution of the bet, they would figure out what happened. They said, there was a boo-boo here.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.